Hi everyone, it's Hannah from Hand and Crochet, and in today's tutorial we are going to be making my granny stitch poncho sweater type thing. I had really struggled to know what to call it because you can have it as a standard poncho, but also you'll see in the pattern that you can add sleeves and a collar and make it into a sweater. So I'll pop all the details below in the description for where you can find the pattern and all the details, and then you go away, decide which one you want to make, and then come back and we will look at all the options together. I chose to use Upcycle Alpaca Blend, which is a worsted weight yarn from We Crochet, and it comes in the most beautiful selection of colours. And you can do a multicolour version, you can do a single colour version, you can do anything and everything. And if you look at my post and my pattern, there are pictures of all the different versions that my testers made for some inspiration too. You will need a 4.5mm or G+ crochet hook, a needle for your ends, and a pair of scissors. Now here I am showing you my poncho version, and you'll see that the yoke, as we call it, so the neckline of it, is made up of really straightforward granny squares. So we have some full squares, we have 10 of those, and then we have some half squares, triangles. We have 4 of those because some of them come at the shoulders here to give it what I think is much better shaping than if we were using squares there. So let's go ahead and whip through how to make this square and this triangle, and then we'll be ready to join them together and then work the body. Once you've found your version of the pattern, you will see that it comes in 3 different sizes. They're adult sizes ranging from extra small through to 5XL. And there's lots of customization that you can do. They will fit all of those sizes, but you can do loads of customization when it comes to the body part of it. But the yoke comes in 3 different sizes, and the way that we do that is by making slightly bigger or smaller granny squares that we're going to make now. All of the granny squares start the same. So hooray, and they just change at the end slightly for different sizes because we want to make them slightly bigger for the size 2 and size 3. To begin our granny square then, we are going to make a magic ring, and we will then chain 1. Then we're going to pop 3 double crochet into the magic ring. So I'm speaking in US crochet terms. So 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll chain 2, and that will make our first corner. And then we work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to chain 2 for another corner, and then another 3 double crochet. I'm going to close just a little bit here so we can start to see chain 2 for another corner, and then 3 double crochet. And then chain 2 for our very last corner. And then we can pull tight, and then we're going to join to that very first stitch there. Now, if you want to make your granny squares multicolour like I did in my poncho version, then this is where you break your yarn, and then we're going to join into this first corner here with your next colour. But I'm going to carry on using the same colour, and so I'm going to slip stitch through to that corner, and then we're ready to work round 2. For round 2 then, we are going to begin by chaining 1, and then we're going to work 3 double crochet into that chain 2 space at the corner. We work a chain 2, and then still into that chain 2 space for the corner, we're going to work another 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3 as my tangle of yarn chases me. And next we need to chain 1, and that's going to give us a space for our next set of 3 stitches on the next round. And then we're going to repeat what we've done here into this chain 2 space. So we're going to pop 1, 2, and 3 double crochet, a chain 2, and then 3 double crochet. And we keep going like this all the way around. We then chain 1, and then we go to our next chain 2 space, and we go 1, 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, and then 3 double crochet. Doesn't like me today, does it, my yarn? And now we're up to our last corner. We're going to chain 1 and make another corner here. So 3 double crochet, a chain 2, and 3 double crochet. And then we need to remember to finish with a chain 1 after we've done this, and then we're ready to join and finish round 2. So chain 1 and then slip stitch in your first stitch. And then again, if you're going to change colour, this is where you do it, but if you're not going to, then you can slip stitch through to that corner and you will be ready to begin round 3. So round 3 is very, very similar. We are going to just keep getting bigger by chaining 1 and then working a corner here. So those 3 double crochet, a chain 2, and a 3 double crochet. Then we chain 1 and we work 3 double crochet into that chain 1 space here. We chain 1 and then we're back at a corner. So this is the repeat now for the round. This is what we need to work through here, and through here, and you're going to end with a chain 1 and you're going to then be able to slip stitch in there. So if you go ahead and work that round, and then I'll meet you back and we'll chat about what we do next. Now here we are, and we're going to slip stitch to join in that first stitch. And for the first size in the pattern, then that's it, you're done. That's your granny square ready, and you need to make 10 of those. But for size 2 and size 3, you have a different final round. And we're going to make size 2 here, but size 3 basically just carries on and does another round of the granny square exactly like this. But size 2 is slightly different in that we are going to continue with the same colour of yarn, and we are going to chain 1 and then we're going to work a single crochet into each stitch around, and then when you get to a corner we're going to work 3 single crochet into that. So there's a chain 2 space there and we've worked 3 single crochet into it, and then we carry along this side working a single crochet into each stitch and each chain there. So go ahead and work this if you are working the second size, or finish if you're working the first size, or carry on and do another granny square round. This is what works by making each of the squares just a tiny bit bigger or smaller, and then you can have a different size yoke. Now here we are, I'm going to slip stitch in that first to join, and then we're ready to break our yarn for this size. So you need to make 10 of these for each size, and then you'll need to block them to the measurements that you'll find in the pattern. Each of the squares for the sizes need to be blocked to a different size. And then when you've made those, come back and find me and we'll make the triangles together. Now once you've made all of your full granny squares, it's time to make our half granny squares. And we need to make 4 of these for each size of the poncho. And the difference with this is that we are going to be turning our rows. We work back and forth in rows. So whereas with the full granny square we went round and round, we're going to be turning for these. So we'll begin the same, and as you'll see in the pattern, each of the 3 sizes have a different amount of rounds to match the rounds that we did for the full granny square. So each of them though begins with a magic ring and a chain 1, and then we work 3 double crochet, and then a chain 2, and then 3 double crochet. Oops. And that is row 1. And what we're going to do then is pull our magic ring tight, and we can turn our work. So for row 2, I'm going to do a generous chain 1 to get us going, and then I'm going to work 3 double crochet into this very first stitch here. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then in our chain 2 space here, which is going to become the point of our triangle, I'm going to work a corner like we did in the full squares. So that's 1, 2, and then 3 double crochet, a chain 2, and then 3 double crochet all into that chain 2 space. Then we chain 1, and then into our last stitch we're going to work 3 double crochet. And that's the end of row 2, and we're ready to turn. And so for row 3 we are going to do a generous chain 1 again, and then work 3 double crochet into that first stitch, a chain 1, and then 3 double crochet into this chain 1 space here, a chain 1, and then a corner goes into this chain 2 space, our chain 2, and then the rest of the corner. We chain 1, and then 3 double crochet into the chain 1 space, a chain 1, and then finally 3 double crochet into that last stitch. And for the first size, that is you done. So that's your triangle. But for the second and third sizes in the pattern, we need to carry on. Now size 2, we're going to be using single crochet stitches again, but for this third size, you're going to be doing another increase round like we've just done there. But we're going to make size 2 together. So I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to work a single crochet into each stitch and chain. And then when you get to that chain 2 space of the corner, you're going to work 3 single crochet into it. So really similar to how we did the full granny squares. And there we have it. So we can break our yarn, and then these are, once you've made 4 of these, they are also ready to have their ends weaved in and to have them blocked. And then once you've blocked your squares and your triangles, we're ready to join them all together. Now I've had lots of people contact me and say, do I have to block my motifs, my squares, etc. before I join them together? And the answer is no, there's absolutely nothing that you have to do, but I would really recommend for this in particular that you block them before you put them together, because once they're joined together they create more of a 3D shape, and it will be incredibly difficult to then block that yoke. You see how wobbly this is at the moment. With a good bit of blocking, this will be absolutely pristine and exactly the shape and the size it will need to be. So I definitely recommend blocking them before we join them together. So go ahead, make your squares, make your triangles, get them blocked, and then we'll be ready to join them. Now that we have made all of our squares and our triangles, we get to do the fun part. We get to put them all together. Now, this weird and wonderful jigsaw kind of puzzle I have here is how the neckline will sit. And you'll see in the pattern there are diagrams for how to lay yours out. And you don't have to add these triangles in if you don't want to. If you want it all to be a V-neck, then just leave those two out. But if you want it to match mine, then pop those in. Now, my suggestion for joining these squares is to use a flat slip stitch seam, which is really difficult to say, but I did it, hurrah. And I'm going to show you how to do that now, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a different colour yarn because it will just stand out better and be much easier for you to see. But of course you can join it in whatever colour you like. I think once I have shown you, I'm then going to join it in the matching yarn because that's how I'd like the top to look in this version. Then once we've joined those all together, we'll be ready to work down and you do our body section from this neckline. So I find the best way to join things like this is to have them laid out on a table in front of you like I have here. Now if you don't have the ability to do that, then absolutely don't worry. Of course you can do it on your lap or you can do it on the floor, whichever suits best. But I do find a nice flat surface to work on is really, really helpful. So I've just moved some of my squares away because actually we're going to just focus on this front section first because the joining principle is exactly the same. Once you've joined a couple of them, you'll be absolutely away and have no problems at all. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to join this seam on here. Unfortunately, there is no quick and easy way of doing all of these. You will have some ends at the end of this. You could get away with doing a few together, but I did all of mine on my first version individually and it worked beautifully and they looked really neat and tidy. So I think it's worth the time investment of doing them separately and not trying to look for a shortcut. So we're going to be matching stitch for stitch on our squares here, and what we're going to be doing is pop into the back loop of the first stitch that you would like to join. So we'll always start in a corner is probably the best place, and then find that corresponding stitch in your next square and then pop your hook in the back loop of that one. And then we've got the yarn sat behind us here, as you see. And what I'm going to do is I have my short end here in my right hand and I have my long end in my left hand. So my long working end is here and I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through both of those loops. And then I'm going to pop into the back loop of the next stitch along and then the back loop of the corresponding next stitch along. I'll yarn over and I'll pull through everything. I'll do the same again, back loop of the next stitch and the back loop of the corresponding stitch, yarn over and pull through everything. Now this seam is really lovely and easy once you get the knack of it. The temptation, I think, and what I definitely used to do, is to pull too tight. You don't want these stitches to be too tight at all. You need to give them some space to breathe. So pop in there and in there. So I'm just barely holding on to the yarn with this hand here. So don't pull it tight, otherwise you'll end up like you're trying to fight it. And that's definitely not what we want. And there we have the last one there. And you see how neat and tidy that seam is. And then we're going to break our yarn here. And I'm going to pull through there. And that's our first two joins. Now the pattern for the neckline, we need to join in this format here, and your triangles join in exactly the same way. You've got the same amount of stitches at the sides of your triangles, so just work those in exactly the same way. So for every seam that you have and every join on that diagram, work a seam like this, and then the whole thing will come together and it will lay flat to start with, but then as you turn it over it will become kind of 3D-ish as we work around it, but at the moment it will stay nice and flat. So go ahead, join all of your seams, and I will join mine in the other colour, and then I'll meet you back here when we're then ready to start working the body. Okay, so now we have joined everything together and we have this very strange looking neckline. It's kind of a yoke, but not quite a yoke. We are then ready to start working the body. And so the reason I have this other version underneath here, this is the smaller size, is to show you then how it works from there. Now in the pattern, you'll see that there is this optional extra slip stitching here that I have done on this one. Now this is just for extra little detailing, and I'm not going to do it on this middle-sized one here because it doesn't need it. If you're not contrasting with colours, I don't feel like it needs it, and some people really don't like slip stitching. So if slip stitching isn't for you, then you can leave this part out. But essentially this is just a slip stitch around every stitch that is around this edge with the wrong side facing. So you would begin here and you would slip stitch all the way along and around until you get back to the beginning again. So if you want to add that, then please do so, absolutely go for it, but your stitch count will be exactly the same whether you choose to do that or not. So if you want to do it, go for it, and then we'll be ready to pop the body on, and we're going to work in rounds here. And let me take this bottom one away. We are going to increase at the points where we have a point. So there'll be an increase here and there will be an increase here, and the rest of it will work in the stitches that we have. So I would suggest that we join and we begin at one of the points that will then become the back. It will be nice and neat, so it doesn't really matter, but I would keep that as your back, and we will work around, and I'll show you how we do that now. So to begin, we're going to join to this central stitch at the back here. We'll join our yarn and chain one. Then we work 3 double crochet into that same stitch. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we need to work 2 chains and then 3 double crochet into that very same stitch. So we're basically mimicking what we did here for a corner. So 1, 2, and then 3. So now we've made that corner, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and then working centrally above the top of this set of 3, we're going to work 3 double crochet. Now you'll see this round is slightly different for different sizes, just so that we get the amount of stitches that we need. So if you're in any doubt, then make sure you pop back to the pattern and check the size that you're making. And then we chain 1, and then we look for the stitch above that next center one. So you should be skipping 1, 2, and 3, and we work 3 double crochet in here. And this carries on throughout, doing these 3 double crochet and then a chain 1, and then skipping your 3 and then working above the center of this stitch in the set below. Now what we do when we get to a join of the granny squares is that we work into the center of the join, and we work 1, 2, and 3. And then we chain 1, and then we skip through to the center one here again, and we work 3 double crochet. And this principle carries on the whole way around. We chain 1, and then we continue all the way around. Now when it comes to the side of this triangle here, things are slightly different. So if you work up until we get to here, and then meet me back and we'll do this section together. Now here we are, and we've got to this flat edge, and we're coming round. I've just done a set here in this join, and I've chained 1, and now essentially across this side here, what you need it to do is lay nice and evenly. Now this is a place where if you like to, you can adjust and you can add a few more stitches in if you would like it to be a bit more roomy within your size bracket. So I would just space it out and go into the side of each stitch here, into the side of your double crochets. I would put a set of 3 double crochet. But this part, I wanted this pattern deliberately to be nice and free and easy, because it is so easy to add or take away these sets. You can make it whichever kind of size you like, really. And the other thing is that because you've already made this yoke, you can try it on over the top and see what fits and works for you, and you can adjust it. This first round, if you take a few goes to get it just the right fit for you, then that's absolutely fine. And the other thing as well is to think, what will you be wearing it over? If you're going to wear it during warmer months, then maybe don't size up too much. But if you want to wear it in the colder months and you're going to be wearing some chunky jumpers underneath, then maybe make the size up, which is what I'm doing here now. So that I will have a version that I can wear over lighter clothes and then heavier clothes. Then we chain one in between each, and now I've got to the next seam, so I'm going to pop another set of 3 into this seam here. And we chain one, and then we're ready to carry on again, skipping till we get to that center one there, and we work a 3. So then if you carry on now all the way down to our next point, and we'll work that one together, and we'll be almost there with this round. Now the important thing to say for this round, obviously if you've chosen to pop your slip stitches in, you'll be working into those slip stitches as opposed to the stitches here like I am. So if you've chosen to do those slip stitches, just work into them instead of this. So now here we are at the corner, we're going to skip 2, and then in this top one here, we're going to work the increase, which is our 3 double crochet, a chain 2, and then 3 double crochet into that very same stitch. And then we chain 1, and we work exactly the same all the way along this side as well, making sure that whatever you've done on this side will match here, and so that your stitches for each side are going to be equal. So go ahead and work the same on this side, and I'll meet you back here when we join. Now here we are back at the very first stitch, and we've chained 1, and we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch to join. Now if you're going to carry on with this same colour, because of course you can do any colour combination you like, what we'll now need to do is slip stitch through these next 2 stitches and then into the chain 2 space, because then you'll be ready to start your next round. But I'm going to change colour here, so I'll pull back to there and I will break my yarn, and then we are ready to join our next colour into the chain 2 space. So let's swivel our work here, grab your next colour. Now we can join our new yarn into that chain 2 space. We'll chain 1, and then we'll work our first corner. So 3 double crochet, and then a chain 2, and then 3 double crochet. And now this next round, or the round that we're currently on, is really, really lovely and straightforward. You're going to chain 1, and then you're going to work in each chain 1 space, you're going to work 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3, and then you'll chain 1, and you'll skip the next 3, and then in the next chain 1, you'll work 3 double crochet. And that literally is it for the rest of the poncho. Hurrah! Unless, of course, as I say, you decide to add those slip stitch rows in. But this is what we need to do. Remember to do these increases at both the front and the back of your poncho, and just go round and round and round for as many rounds as you like. Try it on as you go. Play around with your colours, mess around with the whole thing, and figure out what works for you. So if you want to go ahead and make it as big as you would like, as long as you would like, and then meet me back here and we'll talk about how to finish it off, add fringes, and all the other kind of options that we have for you. So now you've worked as many rounds as you would like for the length of your poncho, I'm just going to show you, you'll see in the pattern that there is an option for optional sleeves. And there's even options as to how to do the optional sleeves. There are so many options in this thing. So basically you can leave your poncho exactly as it is and you can wear it nice and loosely around, but you'll see in the images that I have added some sleeves here at these top corners. and they just make it into basically a jumper, and it looks absolutely awesome. I really like it like this, so I will show you how to add those if you would like to. Now, the options for adding them, the thing is, you can make it as wide as you like or as tight as you like. Now, on me, this the length I've chosen finishes just at kind of my elbow, and that is what I would recommend if you're going to add sleeves. Finish at your elbow point and then put the sleeves on from there, and in this way you can kind of measure around, pop it on and pop a stitch marker from the top here doubled over as to where you think your sleeve would sit best. Now, this isn't going to necessarily mark exactly the width of your sleeve because you would like it to have some negative ease, and that means it will pull in around your wrist and be a bit tighter. But this is a general good marker for where you would like it to start. So map those out with a stitch marker on either side, and then meet me back here and I'm going to show you the two options for how to actually work the sleeve. So now the first option for working a sleeve will be to do a join as you go method. And now this is a really lovely way of working a sleeve, but it's not my preferred way for this, but I thought I would show you because some people really hate sewing things in place. So if you'd like to do a join as you go method, then we basically just, where your stitch marker is, you're going to join your yarn, and then you're going to chain out as many as you need to make it the length to come to your wrist. Now, I have given generalized ideas in the pattern, but the best thing to do here is to fit it to your body or to the body of the person that you're making it for. But if you're making it for someone unknown or you're making it to sell, then I have given ideas within the pattern. And of course, if you don't want long sleeves, if you want them to only come halfway down your arm, then you can just adjust it too. So you're going to chain out as many as you think you're going to need. And then what we're going to do is we're going to work into the back bumps of these, and we're going to do a yarn over slip stitch in the second chain from the hook and each along. Now I'll do that one quickly and then I'll show you how to do them. So yarn over, and we go into that back bump there, we yarn over and we pull through everything. Now I do find if you twist, it helps you get that hook through. So twist at the back there and it will pull through. So you're going to do a yarn over slip stitch in the second chain from the hook and each along until we get to where we began. Here we are at that last chain, and then when we get to here where we joined, we are now going to slip stitch in the next 2 stitches of that granny square there, that granny stitch that we've done. And then what we need to do is turn. Now I don't turn the whole thing, I just turn the cuff, and then you're going to skip those 2 slip stitches you've done, and then you're going to find the back loop of this first stitch here, and we're going to put a yarn over slip stitch in the back loop only of each stitch along. And this basically, now we form the repeat here, because you're going to work at the end of this row, you're going to work a chain 1 and then a yarn over slip stitch in the back loop only of each stitch, and then you're going to slip stitch into the next 2. The join as you go method is basically slip stitching whenever you meet the main body of your garment. And we basically just keep doing this all the way around. You're going to be working, she says finishing her stitch there, you're going to be working and joining here and then here and then here and then here, and you keep going and you flip it over to do the other side, and eventually you'll meet up round to here and you'll be back where you began. And then all we need to do is either sew together or slip stitch together in the final row to the first row, and that will be your sleeve complete. Now that is the first option for joining them, but as I say, for some reason that wasn't my preferred method. I did try it completely like this, and I just felt I had less control over the size of my sleeve there. And so my second option was to actually make it separately and sew it in place, because then you have much more control over the gather, or I felt I did anyway, of the gather of your sleeve. So all this is exactly what we have just done there. The length of my sleeve here I decided to do 47 stitches for, so I chained 48 and then I did a yarn over slip stitch, just as we've done in the join as you go method I've just shown you, in each stitch along, and then in the back loop of each stitch along. So it's just a rectangle of yarn over slip stitches in the back loop only. And then when I got it to, I basically fitted it around myself to see how I would like it. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to dictate that this goes, even though it doesn't look like it fits in this space, it looks a little bit shorter than the space, I am going to make sure that it does fit there, and it's going to pull it in and make a really, really nice shape of your sleeve. So once you have got your rectangle ready, what we need is a very long tail. I've maybe left quite a bit too much of a tail there, but a long tail to weave and join it together. So the first thing I'm going to do is reintroduce my hook to the piece here, and now what I'm going to do now is join them together. So I want to turn so that our ends can match here. And then all we're going to do, it's up to you entirely, this is going to be on the inside, so you're not going to see it too much. We are going to work a slip stitch seam to join the corresponding stitches together. So we work through here and then I'm going into the back loop of that so that it pushes forward on the inside, and you get some detailing. But have an experiment, see what works best for you. So go all the way along for all of the stitches. Okay, so here we are at that last stitch. And once we've done that slip stitch, I'm going to pull this tail all the way through. Yes, I've still got plenty here. Maybe I didn't need quite that much. And then with this seam still here, because we're going to sew it onto the wrong side, we are going to pop the end of the yarn on your needle. And then what we need to do is flip this inside out. So at the moment we've got the right side facing here. So I'm going to flip it so that we have our wrong side facing us. And now wherever you've popped your stitch marker, and the great thing about sewing this in place is that you can pop it in, tack it in place, and if it doesn't sit right, then you can have another go and pop it where it does feel right. So this bottom seam here that we've just made is going to line up with the stitch marker here. And what we need to do is we need to get this to work into this space here. So starting with the side of this stitch here, I'm going to introduce it to that chain there. And I'm just going to gently follow up and see how we go, stopping regularly to make sure that you are well spaced and nice and even, because we are going to obviously be gathering this because our sleeve end is smaller than our armhole that we have created here with the stitch marker. So just make sure that you stay nice and lined up. And we just have a couple more to fit in there at the top before we can flip over and work on the other side. Now here we have the other side, and we're just going to carry on in exactly the same way. Now I know that for some people seaming is the bane of their lives. They absolutely hate it, and I'm not a massive fan either, but I do find with this is well worth the effort, and this is probably taking me, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes to do. It's not, I think the thought of these jobs is far worse than actually doing them. So once you get in it and you get into the rhythm of it, you'll be absolutely fine. And here we are back to where we began, and we're just going to, I will pop over and through here, and then you'll be able to weave in your ends along the side of your sleeve, because remember this is the inside of our work, so this is not going to get seen, so this is where all of our ends need to be woven into. So once you've done this side, we need to repeat exactly the same process on the other side, just making sure that your sleeves are the same length and the same depth, so you can count the amount of granny stitches that you join it into and just match that on the other side. And then when you've done that, we can turn it all the right side round again and then come back and we can join the optional neckline. So finally, it's time to talk about the neckline. Now, this can be as simple or as flamboyant as you would like it to be. For this version here, I felt like I wanted it just to be a plain neckline. So all I've done here is a slip stitch around the edge of all of them, really similarly to how we did the slip stitch join here for the squares. Now you can do that on the right side like I've done it here, or you could do it on the wrong side and it would mirror what we have down here. So entirely up to you. That's a really straightforward, quick and easy one to do. But for this version here, what I am going to do is work a yarn over slip stitch neckband to match our sleeve, so it ties it all in together. So if you would like to do that, then I think the best place to probably start is going to be in one of these corners here. So have your neckline laid flat with the right side facing us, and we are going to join into this corner here. So you can make your neckline as high or as low as you would like, but I have chained 9 because that's how high I'd like mine to be. And then just as we did with the cuffs, we're going to do a yarn over slip stitch in the second chain from the hook and then each along. And we are going to do the collar as a join as you go collar. There we go, here we are back. We have now got 8 stitches. And now what we're going to do is we're going to join to the next 2. Now we've joined there in a join, so we're going to pop into this next stitch here and the next one along. And then we're going to flip. We're going to skip those 2 slip stitches we just did and then find the back loop of that yarn over slip stitch and work a yarn over slip stitch in the back loop of each along. So your stitch count will always stay the same here. And then for the neckline, for this last one, I do go through both of the loops there rather than that back loop only. And then we turn and we go again. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to work in the back loop only, a yarn over slip stitch. And then we're back. We're going to slip stitch in the next 2 around the neckline and then over we go. Ready to skip those 2 slip stitches and then a yarn over slip stitch in the back loop only of each. So if you want to carry on along this granny square here and then meet me back and I'll show you what we do here. Okay, so I've just popped back because I have got to this part here, which then joins to another granny square and then goes across a flat edge here. And we're going to carry on in exactly the same principles basically, but you're going to join into that point there and then into the side of this, because we're going to work across the side of the stitches here now. So I would just, for neatness, go into that join there, and that then brings that together, and then you're going to carry on working in the same way by turning and then working your yarn over slip stitches, ignoring those ones there. We go into the back loop of the 8 that we've been working all the way up until this point. So the difference now basically is just that we are slip stitching into now the sides of the rows of the next granny square or half granny square that we've come across. And you just need to be sensible about your spacing and just have a look, sit back and have a look what your neckline is looking like after you've completed the side of each granny square. Now here we are ready to join again, and we're going to do it into the side of the next 2. And then we turn and we continue. Right, so now we've got all the way around the neckline doing it like that. We are ready. We've come back to the first again and we are going to slip stitch to join into the first row. So again, this sometimes takes some experimentation to see how you would prefer that seam to look, but for me just a slip stitch down here on actually the right side makes it mimic the kind of rib look that you already have going on in the neckline. So just slip stitch all the way down. They tend to hide there we go. And then you will have completed your neckband. So once you've done that, you're ready to weave in that last end and you are ready to wear your poncho. So the other option that I wanted to show you is how to make this twisted fringe. Now they're really easy to do when you get the knack of it. So we'll do some along the edge of this granny square together to show you. This twisted fringe works great for any edge of a project, not just ponchos, but especially ponchos in my mind. So to begin with, we are going to join our yarn and I'm going to chain one. Now we have the long working yarn out here and the short tail here. And what we're going to do is pull that long working yarn, that stitched through, to the length that you would like it to be. Now this will be more than twice the length of the actual finished fringe because we're going to twist it and then turn it in half basically. Once you've got it to the length you'd like it to be, don't let go here. Keep hold here with your thumb and then we're going to twist it, which is very difficult here, sat within a confined space, but twist as many times as you would like it to be. The more you twist it, the tighter the fringe will be. But I think I did mine probably about 18-20 times for mine, but just see how you go. Do an experiment with a few, and then what we're going to do is keep that twist tight. I haven't let go, and then we're going to slip stitch back into the same place that you were in. So keep hold of your fringe and slip stitch there, and then immediately before I let go I slip stitch into the next stitch because we're then going to work into that, and then when you let go it does this weird pingy thing, and then there we have a twisted fringe. So let's do one more. So I've already slip stitched, so I'm ready to go. I'm going to pull to the length and try obviously to be consistent because then it will be the same length. You can ping up a little bit more if you need to. Keep hold here with your thumb and twist away. Twist, 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 twist. I didn't count. I did when I was making it, but never mind. Keep twisting until you're happy, and then you slip stitch back into that same stitch and pull it through, keeping hold of everything, and then slip stitch in the next one before we then sort this one out as well. So they will curl and they will look odd to begin with. You just need to tease them out so that then they sit like that. And that's all we do. You just go all the way around along the edge of wherever you want it to be. Keep going, slip stitching into the next stitch and then making a fringe, slip stitch back into that stitch and then go along to the next stitch. So if that's something that you want to add, I will warn you, it is a yarn eater. It takes up a huge amount of yarn, but it looks really dramatic and really effective.